Hello, welcome to my video. In case this is your first time watching, my name is Kat and I'm also known as Kattakind. I am an artist from Vancouver and I draw skeletons and like cute birds and all that kind of stuff. I like to make merch out of my drawings and go to conventions and sell them, and I also have an online shop. Today is going to be about my longest project to date, which is skeleton animals. I've done enamel pins that glow in the dark, I've ran 2 successful Kickstarters, I've done stickers, commissions, all these things, but today we're going to talk about the project that is at the heart of it all, which is this little booklet. It features the 100 Days of Skeleton challenge, which is a art challenge that I did back in 2019. I wanted to improve my skills in watercolors and anatomy, so for 100 days, more or less without fail, every day I picked a different animal. I sat down, I took out my watercolors and I drew this animal while researching the anatomy. At the end of it all, which took more than 3 months, obviously 100 days, I scanned them all in and I created this little zine that people were able to flip through and buy at most of the conventions that I've been at. It's been a fan favorite, honestly, because people like looking at my stuff, but they are even more interested in stories behind it, and especially if you can like flip through and it starts with like regular animals and then goes to animals that were extinct and then dinosaurs and then mythical creatures, and you can kind of see the evolution of going from like cute dogs to like creatures that have multiple heads or tails. There's a chimera that is like 3 different animals in one. But yeah, so the first edition that I printed is all sold out, so I'm working on a second edition, and in this video I'm going to ramble along as I show you footage of me creating the second edition and tell you a little bit about how to take your sketches and turn them into things that you can sell, how to clean up drawings, turn them into merchandise, because obviously a piece of art that you can just sell as a print is going to be very different from a cleaned up design that you send to a manufacturer to be produced as a pin. So I hope you enjoy my ramblings, and at the end I'm going to mention everything I'm working on at the moment, which is a Kickstarter for keychains and a lot of other exciting stuff. So let's get started. As mentioned in the intro, today's video is going to be focusing on the skeleton zine. Zine is short for magazine, and it basically just means a booklet. It can be in a book about art, like a compilation of sketches. Some people like to make them at home and fold them, but since I'm planning to have basically over 40 pages of content, I will be creating files for print and then sending them off to a local print shop. So I'm using Affinity Designer to put together the files. They also have some bleed on the sides. Just creating the layout for today. You see me open the old Photoshop file of the first edition that had all the animals sorted in the way that I actually drew them, but I feel like it didn't really work anymore. I started out doing animals that you see every day. I did like a corgi and an owl first, and then moved on to other animals, then dabbled into deep sea creatures, then animals you would find in the savannah, and then back and forth, and then eventually there was a little bit of structure to it, because at some point I did dinosaurs and then mythical creatures, but then I went all the way back to regular animals, and it just didn't feel really good. Every time I was at a convention and I saw people like flipping through it, and they're like, oh, after the mythical creatures comes a koala or hedgehog or whatever I had in the back. So the way I wanted to sort it was actually by types of animals. So obviously start with mammals, start with animals that you see. The corgi is still number 1 to honor the actual 100-day challenge. So the downside is that I feel like actually my skill improved by the end of the challenge, but also some of the sketches I put more work in than others, so I don't think that it will be particularly jarring to have them out of order like that. Another upside of sorting it that way is that you you can go through like mammals first and then graduate to reptiles and whatever, and then usually animals of a similar type. I used similar colors for it. Like a lot of marine animals have a bluish tint, a lot of the cats have like orange or yellow tints, so I feel like the pages look a lot nicer just looking at them, and it flows so much better. It's like you can compare the different birds together. You can compare the hummingbirds to the ostrich and then to the kookaburra. Even though they are so different skeletal wise, they're all still birds. I think this new edition will actually add a lot more to what this project was all about, which was compare different animals, because we all evolved from the same things, right? And it's still visible underneath in the skeletal structure. The way scientists now determined that dinosaurs were more closely related to birds than reptiles because of the way the bones are, right? So like we used to think velociraptors run with the wrists tilted forward, like the way we all played dinosaurs as kids, right? But now actually their front appendages or hands were almost wings, so the wrists are sideways with the thumb pointed up. And you'll see a lot of these inconsistencies in my skeletal book. A lot of these are not perfect because sometimes the references I looked at were not perfect, but what it did do was open up a lot of conversation. So I actually learned from my friend Chloe about Spinosaurus. Like in dinosaur circles, the Spinosaurus is kind of like an elusive beast, because the skeleton they have is very incomplete, and they come up with like new things based on findings. Oh, we thought it was all aquatic, but no, it's semi-aquatic. But no, it's like it's walking on all fours and sometimes on two legs. It's kind of whack the way we still don't know a lot. But yeah, it's kind of just like a capsule in time. So moving on to mythical creatures, I tried to sort them, aquatic ones and then dragon ones, and then I noticed like a lot of them have horse parts, so I guess there's like 2 pages of horse related ones. Maybe because old-timey humans used to rely on horses so much, so stories and drawings are all made up of what you see. And then there's a page of humanoid ones. I guess this is a good time as any to share another learning moment that I had. The deer man that I drew can be found in a lot of different cultures. There's a Celtic version, there's a Slavic version, but the one I was referring to was the North American version, which is part of Native American culture. And unfortunately, when I was researching mythical creatures, I was looking up what kinds there are, and like there would be lists on the internet listing like dragons and mermaids and wendigo, and only after the zine was completed, and unfortunately after most of them were sold, I learned that wendigo is not okay for white people to use. It is not a deer man cryptid to be used in popular media to scare children or as a video game antagonist. It is actually something that has a lot of meaning and a lot of weight behind it, and we should not be just using these things carelessly. That was a great learning moment to not just like take and use it for our entertainment. Like stuff like mermaids and Cerberus and all that stuff, I think that's like fair use because it's so widespread, and also the cultures that came up with them were not dismantled by modern people and their people murdered over the past couple centuries. So bottom line is, do your research and find out if the folklore that you're borrowing from maybe is not yours for the taking. Back to the zine. So we finish with the very last creature, which is the Homo sapiens, of course, the person drawing. And the quote I decided to leave in I still think it's very profound. It is about judging the wolf for the way it is, but it's actually us judging ourselves because we apply human values to creatures, and it's all about how we treat each other and how we treat animals on this earth, even though we're all kind of the same, by just pretending they are lesser, or they don't feel pain, or they don't care as much. So yeah, moving on, I went back and I changed the font to a font that I had created myself. I changed the cover. It's still including the same cat drawing that the old one did, but I resized it so it now fits the cover instead of looping all around, and then I'll have something else on the back. Since I wanted to add more pages in the back detailing my work after the 100-day challenge, I felt like might as well upgrade and add a proper table of contents, add page numbers. Basically, what I found that people were really interested in the story behind it. Like, how did I come up with all of that? What was I thinking? What was the purpose of this challenge? I want people who buy this zine, maybe they don't buy it in person, so they don't get the whole brief, but I still want them to get the same experience. So the writing hopefully is not too dry and hopefully adds to the whole thing. So as mentioned previously, the next pages are about taking the sketches and turning them into merch. I included a bunch of old drawings and concept art that I've never revealed before. Eventually I digitized them either by scanning or just redrawing them in Photoshop. I believe the very first two, the cat and the whale, I actually drew in Flash or Adobe Animate, since I wanted them to be vector graphics. But later on I found a supplier to produce my pins and stickers, and they also accept PNG files. So now I draw most of them on my iPad in Procreate. The next comes the mythical creatures. The video snippet you saw briefly was a master file in Procreate, where I drew a bunch of different sketches. The reason for that is that when I was doing the mythical creatures, obviously there's not a lot of reference for mythical creature skeletons since they don't exist, right? So I had to reference other people's drawings, which is something that's okay to do for sketching and learning, but it's not okay to do if you actually want to create merch out of it. So I made sure that the sketches I came up with were completely original, and then I just used the ones I made before as a guideline, and also created like nicer silhouettes. The next pages are about the results, so you can see the actual pins. It's also meant to be like a bit of promotion. Oh, you made it through the whole book. Like, do you want your own skeletons now? So I included a bunch of nice photos I took for my Etsy. And also, basically all the merch I create is stuff I want to have myself. So I want to be able to look back at it and see the evolution. The next part is about 3D rigging, which is putting a skeleton into a model for animation or video games. It's what I do for work, and it is a big reason for why I did this challenge. I pulled up a rig that I did previously of a dragon and included a screenshot so you all can see what 3D rigging is and maybe make the connection that basically like finding articulation points in 3D models and then building the skeleton is not all that different from drawing actual skeletons. It both involves study of anatomy and knowing how creatures move, especially creatures that don't exist in real life. You gotta find the closest thing that kind of resembles it. For example, if a dragon is cat-like, you look up cats, and so on. We basically arrive in today's day, which is the dinosaur keychain Kickstarter that is currently running. I made a couple of designs of dinosaur skeletons, and essentially they are double-sided, so you can flip them around and compare how the rigging skeleton looks basically the same, hits the same beats as the regular skeletons. And it's also supposed to be a little educational, because a lot of people don't know what 3D rigging actually is. So you can have a little like unique trinket that shows you how your favorite games or movies are made. 3 designs that I picked are the Pteranodon, Spinosaurus, and Velociraptor. I like to ask people what their favorite dinosaur is, and usually I have a really hard time picking between the 3 of those for my favorite dinosaur. So obviously I'm doing all 3 of them. I updated the poses a little bit. The most challenging part was to design the backside, since I didn't want to just duplicate the design on the front, but actually make it look like they turn around. So like what is in the back of the design on the front side is obviously in the front on the back side. Sorry if that sounds confusing, but you see it on the tail of the Spinosaurus, how it is in the foreground on the back design. It took a little bit of back and forth to get those. Adding some descriptions for those as well. Just basically just like some ramblings and notes, things that went through my head as I was drawing them. Yeah, I hope the Kickstarter works out. If not, then it will be a nice time capsule of what I was working on at the time. So then going on to the future, I definitely want to continue making merch with my skeleton designs. And the next project is to take the 2D designs and turn them into 3D by making plushies. I'm a huge plushie fan. I have so many different ones at home. I even made some. I even actually hand sewed one without a sewing machine because I didn't have one at the time. It was a huge pain in the butt, but very much worth it. So yeah, anyway, I'm talking to a manufacturer and I'm including some designs of where things are currently at. Again, time capsule of the skeleton stuff journey, and hopefully these will be available next year. I have 2 designs planned based on the best-selling skeleton critters, which is the Cerberus and the cat, so stay tuned, follow me on social media and subscribe to my newsletter, because that's where I usually post stuff that is not ready to be released yet. That was me creating the 2nd edition. It's going to be about 40 pages long. What I didn't mention is if you send a booklet out for print, it is recommended that the amount of pages can be divided by 4, because essentially if you see, this is a letter-sized page, it's going to have 1, 2, and then 3, and then 4 sides. It gets folded and then stapled at the back. So yeah, I think I'm going to stick with 40 pages. They're gonna be available as an add-on in the Kickstarter that's running right now. Now it is September 2024, in case you're watching this video much later. But hopefully the Kickstarter gets funded, so I get to print a bunch of those, and then they'll be available in my online store and at conventions in person. If you have any feedback or whatsoever, leave me a comment. I'm gonna keep the algorithm happy, so engagement is king. Thank you so much, and sign up for my newsletter. I hope you're as excited for the plushies as I am, because I am literally refreshing my phone every couple hours to see if I have new messages with new prototypes that they are working on. So okay, bye.